at Sabrachi Jewelry Design, or Sabrachi. I don't even say his name right anymore because of Zach. He's a sponsor of Now We Go, and he's a sponsor of this show. He's a dual sponsor. He's a gemologist. He's a jeweler. He's specialized in CAD design, and he's also a branding specialist. You need anything at all done in those categories, Matt is the best motherfucker for that. It's D'Antonio and Klein Jewelers in Philadelphia, PA, and he's also going to be doing it soon to be in Lehigh Valley, PA. You can call or DM for appointments. He's in Philly on 726 Sanson Street, and you can follow him on social media at Sabraki Jewelry Design. He's made pendants for finishers. We're working on stuff together. It's not just jewelry. We're working on pendants and all kinds of things. He's making rings. He can do anything that you need, from design to gems to jewelers. He is the real deal, and I'm excited. He's a childhood friend who grew a diamond business. He's a jeweler. We did a podcast with him. It's a cool story. Check him out. Sabraki Jewelry Designs. Mad J's Barbecue, www.madjsbarbecue.com. They take cash, they take credit card. You can order online. Order online is the easiest for everybody. They can also call in their order. They got 2 locations. They are killing the barbecue game. Started out small. Now these guys got 2 separate locations. They're doing catering. They're doing pop-ups at Seven Sirens Brewery. What else can these guys do? The Nazareth location is over at 52 East Lawn Road. Anybody knows where Nazareth is? It's down past 7-Eleven, right next to Rita's. Shout out Calandra. They are at 52 East Lawn Road, and that's 610-365-7275, and www.madjsbarbecue.com. Justin just opened up the second location, and he is a part of Willow Creek Brewery, and that is 643 Penn Avenue, West Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm going to be having these guys on the show, and they are crushing barbecue, catering, in-store, pickup. They're doing it all, man. They're doing it all. Check them out at madjsbarbecue.com, and thank you for being a sponsor. Eric K. Dowdle, defense attorney. We had him on the show, and what crazy stories this guy's had. He's helped a ton of people over the years, and if you're looking for help, he is your guy. You can contact them at 610-882-3000, and it's ekdefense.com. Do you have a pending court case? Do you have a court appearance and need a defense lawyer? Do you need proper representation? Felony, misdemeanor, drug offense, assault, homicide, DUI, traffic violation, appeals. Reach out to Eric. Check out the podcast we did with him as well. It has his whole story on there. If you need help, Eric is here to help you. He sponsors the show. We appreciate it. He's going to be doing a monthly thing with us. Eric will be a part of the family now. Thank you for sponsoring. We'll just do a fucking rolling intro. Never Again Radio. I think this is maybe 210, 211. What's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
I've been, our paths have intertwined since I was about 28 when I started clothing. Ad Lib talked about you back in the day, and he used to rock your stuff all the way back in the day. And I would always just hear ABE, 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 ABE. And then, then the more I grew into stuff and started networking with different people, and then I sort of, social media changed. Back then, there wasn't even a way, you can put fucking commercials on Instagram now.
Yeah.
Like you used to not even be able to do videos. So like then when I started following you on Instagram, it was really impressive to see what you have done with this. I know how hard this was for you because I did it at one point and pivoted off to do other things. But to build a clothing brand, a label, and what you've done in a valley with pretty much zero resources to get it done in a time when you can't just hit people up in DMs on Instagram when you're cold calling people. It's super impressive, and I want to pick through the story. When did you get into fashion? When did you get into clothing? When did all this start with you just being into, you're obsessed with fashion and clothing.
I've always liked clothing. Like I always liked to get fly. Like growing up in school, like that was a thing. Like going to school with the new kicks and getting fly. So I was always in the clothing and stuff. But I really started getting into like the business of clothing. I want to say like maybe year. My father got locked up. I think it was 2001, and I got sent. I used to get sent to my aunt's house in the summers because my dad was incarcerated in New York. He was in Rikers Island, so I'll be able to go visit him during those times. Like it was certain days that I could go. Like it was like Monday through Wednesday was a certain letter of your last name, and the other days was. So instead of coming back and forth to visit my dad, my parents my mom actually used to send me to my aunt's house to stay over there, and that's where I used to go. I used to chill there, and there was a store like right around the way that I used to always go every day because I mean, like I said, I'm always into clothes. And one day my man just told me like, yo, you're here every day, you might as well work here. You come here every day, you just looking, you just shopping around, you might as well work here.
What kind of clothing store was it?
It's called All Star Players. It's actually still in business today.
Do you ever go back? Same dude own it?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Hell yeah.
I go back and I still do business with the owner.
That's awesome.
Like, we're like brothers, you know what I mean? At this point we're like we're family, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I first got my life. I might have been like 13, 14, and I started working there at the store. I started learning things about the store, and then around when I was about 15, 16, he started taking me to the trade shows with him.
Ah, that must have been a blast. Yeah. I've always wanted to go out to the trade shows.
Mm-hmm. So like being in the trade shows made me I just started loving the process of. And
I want to get into this later, but you did Magic, correct?
I did Agenda Show.
Yeah. That's the New York version of Magic?
It's actually, they do it in Vegas too. They do it in Vegas and Cali.
Yes. I can't wait to get to that part of the story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I saw when you did that, and that was always a goal of mine, and I think it's something that I'll still continue to go after.
Yeah.
But when I started Never Again, I would look up clothing conventions, and like I said, it wasn't the way social media was, and then I saw Magic because a friend of mine had opened Velvet in Bethlehem, and he was selling the high-end diesel jeans and all that. So then that's how I started getting into like that style fashion. But then I knew about Magic through them, and then I saw the Agenda shows, and I saw like just the big-time players at that time because I had bought the Mark Echo book, and like you know what I mean.
Like you said, in those times, Instagram and all that stuff, everything is not. it wasn't as accessible. So when you're going there, it was really like at that time and I want to say, I don't even remember the year, to be honest. Like maybe the year 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Those shows were like Instagram in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're going there, you're seeing Snoop Dogg walking by. You see, I mean, like all the stars they're there. Like it's like seeing it in real life.
And it's weird to remember a time when you couldn't take a picture. Like you'd come back and you'd have the energy from the show and be like, dude, Snoop was there. Like, like you'd try and explain to how awesome this was. And it's not now where it's like, oh, can I take a picture? Can I take a picture? Can I take a picture? And then now you're building content. The content wasn't a thing back then.
Nah, it really wasn't. And I feel like nowadays I'm realizing that the difference and how things are, like the way people act, like the way people want to do things just to post it. You know what I'm saying? Like people want to do things for the content. They don't want to just do it. Like they don't want to.
Yeah, like there's people that
everything is just content. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that would be good content. Even myself, I catch myself thinking, like, damn, like we could have recorded that. You know what I'm saying? Like we say something like, damn, that could have been recorded. We could have posted that. That could have been content.
This was this was kind of started in the reverse idea where I'd be sitting around with my friends drinking and smoking and whatever, and I'd be like, this would be the show. This is the show. And they're like, what? And I'm like, the show I want to do. And they're like, what are you talking about? Because, I mean, that was back before podcasts were a thing. I've been doing this for 6 years. I used to have to tell people what podcasts are. I didn't even think I was going to be able to do a podcast. I thought I was going to get on local radio, like, and get the 3 a.m. shift, or like, you know what I mean?
You got a radio voice, man. Yes, I can hear you on the radio.
Yeah. So like when now you're going out to the trade shows, what was that like to be getting in? Because I know
it was just amazing for me. Like I just loved the trade show environment and the people I was meeting.
And where were the trade shows at? Atlantic City?
There was some in New York. They were doing them in New York. Then they started doing like Magic Show is the biggest show of all trade shows. So when people that have trade shows want to have their trade shows when Magic Show has it. So even till to this day, when Magic Show has a show, all the other shows have the show too, and they're all in the same area. So they do them in Vegas, they do them in LA, and they also do them in the city. Sometimes they did. I went to like 2 shows in Miami.
That was probably a blast.
There's a show in Atlanta called Cobb Show that they do twice a year. So there's a couple different shows. But I just fell in love with that environment, and my goal was really just to have a store. Like I really wanted to have a store. Like it wasn't. like my mind wasn't set on having a brand. It was more like my dream was to have a store. Like I wanted to have my own store, just like Gio. I wanted to be like Gio. You know what I'm saying? Like he was my like OG, like my big
mentor.
brother. Yeah. So I just wanted to be like him. I wanted to have a store like him. I wanted to do everything he did. And just later down the line, a couple years went by. Like I'm still always interested in clothes, and I was still going up there every summer, learning with him. And I got together with a couple of my friends, and we just bullshitting in the house, talking like, yo, wouldn't it be cool if we had our own brand? Like we didn't have to wear everybody else's, like other people's stuff. Like we could just make our own, like make something just for us. And me and a couple of my friends, one of my friends told me that if I put a post on Facebook and sold more than 15, I think it was 15 or 20 crew necks. We made a design. We made a design, and we're talking among each other like, yo, this would be cool. And then my boy's like, yo, if you can go on Facebook and you can get 15 orders, we're gonna start it. Fuck it. Like we're gonna do this shit. We'll get the money. We're gonna figure it out. And we started. So I did it. I ended up getting 60 orders instead of 15. So I was like, boom, like, So from there, we were rolling.
It's hard to explain that feeling of taking something out of your head, putting it on apparel, and the first time you do it and being it received. And it's crazy that how that started is how that started, because, you know, I knew there would be parallels in this because of, you know, when I started it, I remember calling my brother, and I grew up in like 90s skateboarding, so everything was big, baggy. I always liked that. And at the time when I was talking to him, it was going to skinny jeans and everything was getting tight. And I couldn't get clothing I liked anymore. And I was just at a point in my life where, like, you know, I was looking for something to do, and I needed something to pass my time. So I'm on the phone with him, and I'm pacing, and I'm like, yo, I just want to make my own fucking clothes, man. Like, what if I would just rather make my own clothes than give somebody money for something I don't want and I can't find. And then it was just the same conversation. He's like, dude, he's like, I know this guy Riz Art, and like, he's like, he made some band stuff for me. I think he'd be into the idea. And then I got on the phone with Riz Art, and that was the first time I ever was able to, you know, it's like getting a tattoo. It's like you tell them the idea, and, you know, I remember him sending me late night like drawings and like be like, oh, how's this, how's that, and then now my adrenaline's going, I can't go to sleep. And it was the same thing. It was like, it's exciting. We printed our first shirts, and like they went crazy. And then I was working at a bar, living above the bar, so I made a little store out of one of the bedrooms I had, and like I painted the walls, and I got like the waterfalls, where like I learned what waterfalls were, and I'm buying shit off of eBay, and like took an old snowboard, and I just drilled it to the wall and folded clothes up on it, and I'd bring people upstairs when I was bartending, and then it
sounds sick,
dude. It started turning into like people would be coming to the bar, yo, can I get the clothes? And at the time, my buddy, you know, he had his own problems, but nobody was really paying attention to what I was doing, and I was sober, so I was the only one who knew what was going on. So I'd be like, they'd be like, can I use a credit card? I was like, yep, and I'd ring it and just take cash out of the register. But it's crazy that's how that shit starts, man. And it's like, it's corny, not corny, but like you hear these like people talking about it on social media who have these giant businesses being like, it started in a garage, but it literally started from you and your friends just being like, we should do our own thing. And all it takes is two people who actually have the balls to kind of push it a little bit further, and then it takes off.
And that's how it went, man. Like we got the first, like, coming up, like me and my friends, I don't want to say we were like the cool kids, like, but I just want to say, like, anytime anybody did anything in my group friends, my group of friends, I was there trying to promote it. You know what I'm saying? So like I ended up making a lot of friends just from my friends doing things.
Like networking when you didn't know what networking was.
I was exactly. I felt like I had a little network, like with without even knowing, just making jokes on Facebook and doing things like that. Like I felt like I came in with a little network of people that. And I feel like that's what started ABE.
That's awesome.
That little network of people.
Where were you at then? Like, when did it start becoming like, you know, because I know it stays like a hobby for a while, and you get the itch. You're like, oh, let's make something else. Let's make hats. Then you start being like, you know, I'll make anything. And then you start going through the catalog. I remember making shorts and like getting into Dickie shorts, and then finding out that you have to buy every size. And then I'm like, fuck. But like, what did you guys start getting into after? You know, because if you sell 60 and you were looking at 15, you guys were probably super hyped on that.
Yeah, we were super hyped, and we looked at it like it was just going to be like that. Like, we looked at it like it was about to be our way out. Like, we were just like, yo, if we could sell 60 of those, imagine if we had different things and what we could do. And Not to say that it didn't go obviously it didn't go like that. Like the rush came in the beginning, and then it came to that point where we had to pretty much prove ourselves as a brand.
Yeah, there's definitely a part where it separates people from.
Yeah, like because anybody that starts a business, they're gonna get love from their friends no matter what.
Yes.
For the first purchase or the first period of time, but after a while, like people start realizing, like I supported you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not hating on you, but I'm not gonna buy everything that you make.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Especially if you're like, at one point I was trying to do a piece of apparel every month.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of where it started to hit me, where I was like, well, you don't got anywhere to grow. And, you know, like I said, social media wasn't back then. I couldn't try and get followers.
Yeah.
I couldn't run campaigns. You couldn't, you know, like put out content to grab followers.
When we started ABE, it was mostly Facebook. Like Facebook was the main thing. Instagram was just starting. Like,
and that was photos only.
Yeah, Instagram. Yeah, Instagram was just starting, but I got put on Instagram by Andy from Home Base.
Yeah.
He used to always talk about it. Like he used to be like, "Yo, Instagram will be the next thing." Like Instagram, and I just jumped on it, and it actually came true. Like I feel like Instagram is one of the biggest platforms.
Is that what you use the most?
Right now, I use Instagram the most.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite thing to use. I think it's the easiest thing to get the content up the fastest. It's the least amount of I prefer.
I use Facebook a lot still, though.
Yeah, there is a lot of people will kind of shit on Facebook, but there is value in the Facebook groups and especially marketing on Facebook. You can still make a ton of money doing that.
Yeah, and they have the market. Like I feel like
the Facebook market's gangster.
Yeah, I feel like
it's
Facebook
like a flea market.
I feel like Facebook Market's coming up to be like Amazon for real. Like like third party sellers and stuff like that. It's coming heavy. And like I always look at like product listings and stuff. And I was looking on Facebook the other day, and it shows you how many items the seller sold and how many. Like I was just like, yo, this is kind of like eBay. Like it's giving me eBay vibes. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's something here. You know? I don't know.
No, I think marketplace. I mean, I'd say it's a rabbit hole to go down. You all the lamps and stuff here. A lot of them is marketplace. Like you can find awesome deals on people just trying to get rid of stuff. You can
and then you find people that's actually selling things and running a business off of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
you can list your shit everywhere nowadays.
Yeah,
like that's type of things I'm interested in nowadays. Like I'm thinking about.
It's crazy how much, and we were talking about before the show, is like where you grow with your businesses and stuff, and even Instagram now, where like if you put a picture up, you can put a tag.
Yeah, you can put a tag. You can link it to your website.
So if you like the photo shoot you did, you could do like the piece and tag it, and then it goes to
the product.
That stuff's pretty crazy too, because then you have the younger kids who live off that stuff, and they grew up buying stuff.
Facebook too.
You can do it on Facebook as well?
Yeah, it's linked up.
That's
Facebook
awesome.
Facebook and Instagram is the same thing.
Yeah.
They're, the Zuckerberg takeover.
Yeah. The next Meta, it's coming.
Yeah. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it is. Because then you're going to be selling like digital hats.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think if you get in early and you start figuring it out now, which I think is a lot of stuff going on, because I see people who are working it. Yeah. And then I see people who don't have they're like, what's all that noise? And then I'm like, that's the next thing coming.
Yeah.
And it'll get figured out. And if you're in early and all that stuff.
I was tripping. I was telling my girl when Mark Zuckerberg announced the change to Meta instead of Facebook, they're changing the name to Meta. I was like, it's over. I was like, baby, do you understand? Right now, like the next thing, like we're not leaving the house. Like we're gonna go into the Meta. We're gonna go in the
Ready Player One.
Yeah, we're gonna exactly that. So I even mentioned that. Like, did you see that movie? Like that's what we're gonna be doing. Like we're not even leaving. We're gonna go.
People living in containers stacked on top.
I calm myself down. I'm like, all right, we got a little bit of time before that comes. So I'm like, all right. I was definitely panicking though. I was panicking. I'm thinking like,
I think a lot of people felt that way, where it's gonna be instant, but then when you really think about it, they're like the tech's got to roll out and they got to figure it out, and we'll be our parents' age before that, bitching about it.
We'll be happy. We'll be able to go back in time.
Yeah. Where were you at when you started getting into so now you guys are kind of selling more stuff and like it's kind of taking a hold of it? Are you thinking about brick and mortar, or are you still just thinking about opening up your clothing store and putting a couple of your pieces in it? How was the business growing at that point?
Yeah, at the point where we started really taking serious, we was trying to get our stuff in the different stores. We were trying to get our stuff in the local stores. Like we got actually about 3 weeks after we started, we were already in the first store. The store contacted us, and it was one of the biggest urban stores.
That's
at the
crazy.
time. New York Urban. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yeah.
New York Urban gave us a call through one of my friends, Tony Gallo. I don't know if you know him.
I know Tony.
Yeah, so Tony was posting the stuff a lot, like, because Tony's one of my good friends. So he was posting stuff a lot. I guess they thought the brand was his, and they contacted him, and then he contacted me, and I was like, I'm young in the game, and I looked up to New York Urban. You know what I'm saying? Like at that time, I was like, my dream was going in New York Urban. Like our clothes is gonna be in New York Urban. It was crazy, but I actually at that point I didn't know what was going on. Like I didn't know the ins and outs of wholesale and things like that. So when they made the call, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. So we go over there. I brought all my merch. I brought it all, like my whole inventory. I brought it there, and I'm like, here, this is what we're doing. And like, they schooled me. Megan Watson and Sano from New York Urban schooled me to the point where I started learning about it. Like I started learning about wholesale, and I started learning about products and what to buy and the seasons and all that stuff. Like
it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot of stuff that people don't realize. I had a similar thing when I went up to Penn Skate. I was like, hey, would you sell my t-shirts here? And he's like, yeah, how much? And I'm like, well, I sell them for $20. And he's like, well, you can't sell them to me for $20.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's like, well, you want to sell them to me for at least 10. So then I can make money and you can make money. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, all right, well, wait, now I got to figure out what I bought them for. It's not just the idea of flipping.
And it was so real. I was so, like, Meg and Sana were so real that I came to them and I was like, yo, I sell it for $30. It's a crew neck. I sell it for $30. And they schooled me to the point was like, nah, you don't sell it for $30. You're selling it for $50, and you're gonna sell it to us for $25. You know what I mean? Like they pretty much put the price up on my brand. They told me that it was too cheap. That like they schooled me to the point.
But people don't realize that too. Is that there's two things where if your apparel is too cheap, if it's too cheap, people won't want to buy it. Where if I'm like, hey, my t-shirts are $10, then they're not feeling that there's a worth to your apparel. But then if you also go too cheap, you don't make any money on wholesale, and you also aren't making any money off of your own thing. And then that's when you got to start actually like building and cutting out what you want your clothing to be.
Yeah, that's a big part of pricing. Like the price of your product comes out of what are you gonna do with it? How are you selling it? Who are you selling it to? And the quality, what it costs, and it's a lot of variables that go with it that we didn't really know. Like we honestly didn't have. Like I had orders for shirts that I didn't know how to make. You know, I didn't know how to do nothing. We just put the post up and was like, yo, we got these sweaters. We're gonna sell them, and then we started writing down names, and we had a list of names, and that's how I put my first order and found a screen print shop. Got them to design and stuff like that. And then at that time, I didn't know how to design.
Yeah, that's a whole nother monster too. Because then you get into the screen printer, and now you got one. If you run into an older shop, I'm sure it's a lot different now. Where like they didn't, they're doing field hockey stuff. Like that's the other thing too. Is there wasn't really anybody in the valley at that time doing anything.
There was no brands.
No.
At the time when I started, there wasn't.
No.
There was no brands.
And then like even when I moved, I lived in Virginia, and I moved to kind of grow the brand, and a friend of mine's buddy ran a screen printing shop. So I got into a screen printing shop to start learning the ins and outs. And then that's when I started realizing like the difference between American apparel and the difference between Gildan. And then if you have 5 Gildan shirts, they're all going to fit different. And if you have, and then it wasn't until recently where Next Level kind of like, leveled that playing field out. But it's like, I didn't know that there was all these different brands that you can get for different t-shirts, and the quality and the heaviness, and then like what goes into it, and then what goes into screen printing even, where, and then it was like, holy shit,
that's
dude.
Exactly
like,
how I started. Like, I feel like we came in from behind. Like we didn't know anything, and we just started.
No. And then if you don't have an art guy.
So we had a price in our mind, what we think somebody would buy the crew neck for. We didn't think about how much the crew neck costs and how much, you know what I mean? So off of those 60 orders, we might have made $5 off of every crew neck or whatever it was, but we didn't know. We didn't understand, you know what I'm saying? We just had the price in our head, like, people would probably pay $30 for the crew neck.
Yeah. But that's how everything starts. And then what you said before is like it kind of like, it starts washing itself out, and then it gets to a point where it's like, all right, I do have to pay attention to all this shit. Yeah. And then it's just like, do you want to carry this shit? Do you have the passion to keep pushing your brand? Do you want to continue down this road? And that's kind of where, if you're working with partners, they usually start fading off. Well, I'm going to go over here. And then like, and then a lot of the times where I was, you're left alone.
Right.
And then I'm like, all right, back to the beginning. And then it's like, then you know,
it happens.
And then sometimes it's easier to work alone. And then, you know, but then there's a lot of times, and I don't mean this in a negative fashion, where on this journey that I've been on this entire time, there was points where I wanted to give up, but I was like, you know what? This is where all my friends or people I know would have walked away from this, and I'm going to go forward. As much as it sucks to go through that fire and not have any fucking clue on how you're going to make your next dollar, and you're working 2 fucking jobs just to pay for the project, there's times where I'm like, you know, up at night and I'm like, you know what? Fuck this, man. No one else I know would have kept going this far. Yeah. And then even there was moments where, you know, it's I've been doing this for so long. It's people that have passed away that I was super close with that have been like, you know, you were having real conversations at a bar and being like, man, I'm just trying to fucking do this. And they're like, hey, man, like no one else would have went that far. Yeah. And it's like, but I don't want the credit that I went the furthest. I want the credit that I fucking did it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And man, I've been doing this for a long time. I've come across a lot of obstacles and I done fell off a lot of times, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I done fell off my horse a bunch of times, and I feel like it just happens. Like now in where I'm at now, I feel like it's just I roll with the punches is a real.
You fell
thing
off enough.
Yeah. I fell off enough where it's like I fall off, it's like nothing. Like I could fall off I'm ready to fall off tomorrow. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'll get right back on. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. I just don't feel like I don't feel too much like anger when things go wrong anymore.
No, and it's a part of growing with it, and it's something that just happens and changes, and you don't realize it happens and changes until you're in the middle of something and you handle it.
Yeah, every problem has a solution.
Yeah, and then like now it's like when I talk to people and like, you know, because back in the day I'd get thrived off of people telling me, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. And I'm like, okay. And then I would just go do it for the purpose. But now it's like I've been in that scenario so many times where it's like, you know, something can come up where it's like, hey, we're not going to hit a deadline. Hey, you know, but it's like you've been in the scenario so many times where it's like, hey man, this is regular life where problems come up, and then you start realizing that that is regular life. Because then when your shit could be going awesome and you could be making all this money and doing all this apparel, and then somebody close to you fucking dies, and then you're like, oh wait, that's right, there's this real fucking life over here. And then when you start realizing that the business you're running and life are parallel with the ups and downs, what you learn in the business to take care of shit in the business also applies to life, and you kind of hit this common ground if you do it long enough where, like, you know, like what I was telling you before is like where I'm just really happy about my personal freedom.
Yeah.
And like that's what matters. Like, honestly. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm not stressed out about chasing this shit anymore because I know that this is going to get handled because I handle shit. Yeah. And you don't say it in an arrogant way.
At this point, I feel like at this point, I'm trying to. I was just talking to my girl about this. I'm trying to do what I want to do now. I don't.
Yes.
Like I'm not chasing nothing. Like I just want to do what I want to do. And I want to spend more time with my family. I want to like. I feel like in the beginning of this business, how hard I was really working, how hard I was. I'm not trying to say I'm not working hard, but I'm saying how hard I was pushing in the beginning. I missed like my childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I missed a lot of fun things that I could do, which is not bad. You know what I'm saying? Because I did like this is something that I love. Like I love this clothes shit. Like I would do it for free. I would do like if I didn't make money off of this, I would still be doing it. You know what I'm saying? I've done it before. You know what I'm saying? I've done things that I've felt like made me happy for nothing. You know what I'm saying? I've worked for nothing before, and I've been happy about it because I've been happy with what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
It's like when you get the chance, especially when not that you would say a master, but like when you hit a certain level of the grind of something like this, it gives you the ability to almost like a blank canvas, and now you can paint. Yeah. And that feeling to paint is what you're chased the whole time because, you know, you got to take the idea and put it on. Then you got the photo shoot and you can put it. And then when you do, like I've already tried to do photo shoots where it like took the whole year and it was just a nightmare. And then there wasn't anywhere to post it all. And I paid a photographer and I'm like, what am I doing with all this stuff? But now I could be like, hey, you know what we need to do is like, we can do a photo shoot for that. We can apply that to this. And it's like, you learn all these things where eventually once you keep going, you just start using these skill sets. You know, it doesn't it like. And what's funny is looking back on it, I was just like, all right, cool. We're gonna do a photo shoot in the warehouse, and we're just gonna get chicks and people and my friends, and then like, you know. But then you think about looking back on it, it's like, dude, like you knew nothing about running a photo shoot. Yeah. And like, but now because I did, I've done, and I did them like 4 times in a row. I'm like, oh, I know how to put together a photo shoot. But then when you get to a level where you're like, cool, I'm gonna put out a shirt. Now I'm gonna put out a photo shoot. Oh yeah, we also did a video. You know what else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a podcast about it. And then you know what I mean. Then you start taking all this shit over the last 20 fucking years where nobody else would even cared to keep going on an idea, where then that's when it starts working. And it's funny because like people say it takes 10 years to like get to a place, or like you're going to get to a point where it's just going to click, and like it never feels like it's going to get there. And then you get there and you're like, oh, okay. But it's not something, it's hard to explain to some people when they want you to tell them how you did it. And it's just like, I outworked everybody around me, and you just put your head down, and you have to sacrifice. Like you have to give up everything. Like somebody came down here and they're like, hey, how do I do all this? And I'm like, well, you can go live with your parents. You can give up your apartment. You can ruin every relationship you've been in a woman because you have to put this before it. And then you have to fuck this up, fuck that up, fuck this up, fuck that up. And then get to a point to where you just get by. And
9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, nah.
No, they don't want to hear that. They're like, well, how do you make money?
But yeah, like I said, at this point in my career, I'm just happy. I'm real happy to be able to do it. I'm happy to be able to still be doing it after all these years. But I just want to do it my way now. I feel like I just want to do it. Yeah. What I want to do. Like I want to do a photo shoot because I want to do a photo shoot, not because I have to get the content to you know what I mean? Like,
or you think you have to do it in order to be successful.
Nah, I just want to do things, man. I want to do things. I want to create things, and I'm happy doing it, man. I'm happy where I am in Easton. And I'm just doing what I love to do. You know what I mean?
What was it like when you started digging in and started figuring out how to, get your screen printing done and start building it? And like, because I guess you were working at that time, you're probably working a second job and then still pushing this. And then, were you still in fashion and clothing and working in stores?
I had a couple jobs. Like especially once I started the brand, I really started just trying to be in stores. So after I got into this New York Urban, after a while I was doing business with them, I was bringing my stuff there and stuff like that. They offered me a job, and I started working there. And from that time on, like I've always been working in stores. Especially, when I told you when I was young, I was working in the store, so I had a little experience, and I always had the gift of gab. I could always talk, and I always been a people person and stuff like that. So I started working there, and I would be selling my stuff. Like I would just sell my own stuff. I wouldn't even tell nobody. That you know what I'm saying? I'd be like,
that's fun though, to get people's opinion on it.
Nah, it's fun. And that it's you meet all kinds of people. I've had people tell me that they know the guy that made the brand and that he gives them free clothes. Like and they telling it to me, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? I enjoyed that.
Well, that's cool. Can I get his number?
I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that, and I still enjoy it today. Like I said, having a store has always been my passion, and to be able to still have it, it feels good.
When was the first time you even thought about opening the store? Because at this point, you're probably growing the brand. You're in the clothing shop that you're working with, and I'm sure there's more networking opening up in other stores. But like, when did it kind of go off where you were like, you know what, I want my own spot?
I always wanted my own spot. Like I said, that was just my dream. I always wanted to have a spot, and when the opportunity came, I took it. You know what I mean? That's just I don't want to say a bad memory, but I just don't remember exactly in the time, like what years and stuff like that. But
where did you first open?
I opened in Bethlehem. I actually it was a partnership. These guys already had a store, and they were running it, and it just wasn't going too well and stuff like that. And I ended up meeting them, and I was just like, yo, you guys need to give me the store. Give me the store. And that's what happened. They gave me the store, and I ran that store for about 4 years. It's called Movement Boutique. And in that store, I sold mostly my stuff, mostly ABE stuff, but I changed everything about it. I kept the same name, but I changed everything about the store. And I started picking up different brands and stuff like that.
Oh, that must have been a blast when you start getting your own freedom of bringing your own stuff in there.
Nah, it was dope. It was like...
What brands were you messing with at the time? Like, were you calling stuff in from New York or just finding stuff online?
I was messing with, like, brands from the city, but it was mostly my brands. But there were some brands from the city, like friends that I would meet in the trade shows. Let me tell you, I pretty much grew up in the trade shows. So I still got friends, like, in the business. And that's how... People don't know, but that's how clothing stores get made, and that's how brands blow up. It's like relationships with people, you know what I'm saying? So you get a real good sales rep, they're gonna have you 100 stores already because they got these relationships with these stores, and they the ones that tell the store what to buy, you know what I'm saying? And I even with me, like I have relationships with different buyers that a buyer could call me and be like, yo, this brand's up next, like this is the one you should get, like. And I'm going to trust them before I could trust anybody off the street. You know what I'm saying? But because they already seeing the numbers behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I was messing with a bunch of brands, and they had good accounts with outdoor brands. So I was through them, I was meeting North Face and Patagonia and stuff like that. So it was cool.
So you have no idea how I'm excited to talk about this. Yeah. That's so cool to just get into that hustle of the trade show and meeting people and networking and all the behind the scenes. And then that must have been so awesome for you to be able to run a shop like that. And then you're at a point now where like you're the guy calling the shots at the store and you're calling your buddies who got brands and you can bring their brands in to help them out.
And
people might have helped you out. So at that point, you're doing that for 4 years. Where does the growth or the ideas go from there?
In that time is when I really started going to manufacturing my own things. Like we bought one embroidery machine, and we started running.
Were you nervous to learn how to use that?
Actually, I knew how to run it just because I used to go so much to get my stuff made, and I used to be watching it. So once I got the embroidery machine, I was already kind of in tune, and I got right to it. Like my first machine, I ran that thing into the ground. Like,
yes.
Like
that's so
I was
awesome.
making full collections with one machine, and from there I started building up, and we bought more machines, and right now I got 4 embroidery machines, but I'm looking into going even bigger now. Like I'm at the point where I want to get bigger machines and stuff like that.
That's awesome. So you were doing all this out of that shop in Bethlehem, where you were doing all the branding and all that?
Yeah, because the shop was big. It was a big shop. It was a big ass shop, and I was lucky enough to do this partnership with these guys because I wouldn't have been able to afford it at the time.
So you just needed to be bringing the money in and making it popular, and like. But at the same time, in the back of your head, you're probably thinking like, "All right, cool. This is the blueprint for when this either fails or I want to walk away from this. I know what I'm doing."
Exactly.
I did that a lot in kitchens. When they give you a chance to run the kitchen, I'd be like, "All right, cool." But then at the same time, I'm running front of the house, back of the house, and then the one day I'm like, I know how to run a bar. I gotta open a bar.
And that was good for me.
People don't realize that that's school. You know what I mean? That's a version of schooling that like you can learn and pick up way faster and get way more information than you would out of getting a degree.
And then eventually that came to an end. But I continued with my manufacturing. I took it home. I was in my crib doing a lot of manufacturing, a lot of
Were you online at that time, or was it?
I went online. Yeah, I went straight to online. And I was ready for when COVID hit. Like, as soon as COVID hit, my online went crazy. Like, I was pushing just that, and I was making items every day. Like, it was like my podcast. You know what I'm saying? Every day, I would make something else. And I post it, and I put it online, and I get the sales, and then I go make those. And like that was my grind in the house. I was stuck in the house. That's all I was doing, making clothes.
Yeah. What was your was that the first time you were selling the clothes online and like built like a Shopify store? Or did you build out a website? What did you do?
I built out the Shopify store. After we closed Movement, I started transitioning everything to online.
And when that was before the pandemic hit?
That was before, yeah.
So it was just shit coincidence that you were like, I'm going to make a living online.
Yeah, when the pandemic came, I was ready for it because I was already doing it. And it was at the point where it was like people were really stuck in the crib, like, and nobody else was ready for it. Like I feel like people weren't thinking about it. Like stores and stuff like that, they weren't thinking about there's businesses being shut down.
No, Axelrad saved my ass because we were talking before the show. I didn't get any hand out. I think I got like they send the $2,000, and I was like, cool, rent.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like I could go do anything with that money other than pay my bills. But I remember I reached out to Dave, and, you know, it's a similar story. I mean, they started the screen printing stuff out of a shed, and they're in this giant facility now doing stuff for like the NFL.
It's
and
a good business, man. Like,
there was a part of me that wonders if I would have went the other path, because at one point it was like, do you want to make clothing or do you want to run a screen printing shop? But you can make a lot of money running a screen printing shop. And they were like,
it's very in demand. There's a lot of brands coming up right now making a lot of money.
When they were up there, I called and they were like, we're not shutting down. They're like, it's too much to lose, and they're like, we're gonna figure it out. And they were very like a proactive, you know, they built it from nothing. That's the people that stayed open.
Yeah, everybody I worked with printing wise stayed open as well.
Yeah,
so it was good to be able to get prints done, and I was, like I said, I was making new things in my house every day. Like, that was my main thing. As soon as the pandemic started, my main thing was dropping new stuff every day. You know, that's what I wanted to do. So, like,
and it probably kept you sane.
Something else. Yeah, every day I made a new design.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you stayed online. When did you start messing around with your shop in Easton? When did you come back home to Easton? Because I know we talked earlier about how you know, you kind of felt like, you know, Bethlehem was Bethlehem, but your home was Easton.
Yeah.
When did you kind of make the transition back to home?
I just came across the opportunity. It was about a year ago. I just came across the opportunity to get this space downtown, and I couldn't, like.
It's a rad spot.
When I seen the spot, I was just like, I need it. I didn't even think about the cost or nothing. I was just like, that was just what I needed at that point, and I got it done. But
it's like when you run into.
It's good to come home, man. It's good to come home in Easton, man. Like I said, like I was telling you earlier, when we started, it was mainly in Easton. It was like mainly even through those years, my main clientele is from Easton, but I wasn't, like, people weren't making it to my Bethlehem shop. You know what I'm saying? Like, people weren't coming down, and I would still have those customers either online or delivering orders and stuff like that. But once I came home to Easton, I felt right at home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then everyone that I met through my journey is coming to Easton now.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
Yeah, it's got to feel great to kind of have it all come back home. When I made the decision to just stay here, it's so close to my parents' house, and it's where I grew up, and it's just the most comfortable. It's funny because I always wanted to leave, and then I left, and I felt drawn back. And then now that I'm like in Nazareth, you know, I'd always be like, "Oh, this town sucks." Now it's like I stand up for the town. And I'm like, "Well, it sucks, but there is this thing here, and they are trying to do stuff, and you see people trying to go places."
Anybody could talk down on something,
especially when they're not trying to do anything.
Anybody could talk down on something. I feel like it's harder for people to big something up. I mean, you gotta, like, there's a positive in everything, you know what I'm saying? The town might be whack, but like you said, there's this and there's that, you know what I'm saying? But people never gonna look towards that. They're gonna look at the bad.
Yeah, you always have that. I always try and explain to everybody, just because of
people say Easton sucks. I hear people say that, and I'm just like, you're crazy. Like,
you're definitely crazy.
Easton is ill. Like,
I told you as soon as you came down, anyone who ever comes down here, and I say it on here all the time, and I see the areas trying to do it. And Easton, I feel, in my opinion, Easton is the only one who pulled it off.
Yeah,
Easton's the only one who pulled it off correctly. Where they adjusted shit, they fixed shit, they did it in a matter of time. That it's still growing, and like they're still adding stuff down there.
I feel the growth every day, and I just love Easton. I feel every single day I see something different that's happening, or I get an email from the people that's putting things together, and it's amazing what Easton's doing right now. And I think people should really pay attention and come check us out.
It's cool. I had a friend come in town. He grew up in the area, but he's out in L.A., and he met us over at the public market for a beer, and then we went over to the Lafayette bar, and like he was like, "Yo, dude," he's like,
"This is Easton."
Yeah, like he's talking about moving back to the area because he can do the job essentially out of Philly, and he's got a kid, and he wants the kid to grow up how he did around his parents and stuff, and he was just like, "Dude, I think I would live in Easton." He's like, "This is awesome," and I'm like, "Yeah," I'm like, "It's the best food in the area." I'm like, "They have the most unique little shops, and you know, to get out and to be able to walk around, especially in the summer, the public market, what that's done for the area."
Now. Yeah, that's amazing. That's super dope. Now.
And then you guys get to be a part of all the fests and stuff that come through. That it's not like, hey, it's a fest. It's thousands of people that are now spending money in the town.
Yep, and it's definitely good for our businesses those festivals and stuff like that.
When you
fun.
When you started getting the store together, what was that like designing? What was that like putting that store together? What was that like for you to finally be able to take probably all these pieces of the stores that you worked at and then made your own creation? I mean, that must have felt crazy when, like, you know, because you got the spiral staircase and like.
Nah, I love that space. I always say that, like I've told you before, my dream is to have a store, but that store is way better than the store I had in my dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love that store and the architecture and where it is, the cut. Like, we're on the block. Like, we're in a good spot. Like, we're not on Northampton, but we're in a little.
I like that better.
Off the block. I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love the block. I love my neighbors. I love everything about downtown and being there. And like I said, my store is amazing for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's a lot of nice stores everywhere, but to me, like, that's my dream store.
Yeah, because when I went in there, and then now after talking to you, it had to have felt incredible to put that store together. And then what was that like to be open and customers were coming in and it was your spot and you know, you're doing all that stuff there?
Yeah, it's amazing feeling, and like the support came crazy. Like, my grand opening, I had like 20 bottles of champagne, people, like customers bringing stuff down. Like, that felt good. Like, that feeling. People still, I always run into people and people tell me, like, so happy you're in Easton. Like, you're right where you belong. Or they tell me, like, welcome home and things like that. Like, I get that a lot and it feels really good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to be in Easton.
Yeah, you can tell because then you started doing like the Easton merch.
Yeah.
And you started doing like the I want to get into kind of like the different things you did because you've done so much since I've just been doing it. But then you started doing the Easton merch. But that's got to be dope where like your friends and family support you and then you're making a cooler version of like, you know, like your how you see how the city of Easton should be branded, which has got to be a really cool feeling to be able to do and have the full support come around. Where did that idea come from?
We always would do Easton stuff. Like, we would partner up with the school sometimes and do.
How's that feel, dude? That's got to be crazy to like have kids looking up to you as like an entrepreneur and a businessman and like.
It's really awesome, man. It's a really great feeling, and it's a pleasure to be able to do things like that and to work with the school and offer my design to the town, like that I feel like made us. You know, so it's definitely a pleasure. And like you said, we're just making our own version of what we feel like the city should be branded by. You know, what I'm saying? And people respect it. You know what I mean? People come buy Easton stuff from us, and we're not the mayor, we're not nobody, like, but they know that our stuff is the best design, the best quality, the best product. You know what I'm saying? That's
crazy. Even to think like how your name comes up in a meeting, you know what I mean? Like, who are we gonna get to do this? And someone's like, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's gotta come. You know, it's not they don't just call. Like, there's gotta be a talk about it.
I've been doing this for a long time. I feel like I'm a lot of people's go-to when it comes to creating clothes and graphic design and stuff like that.
That's awesome. When did you start getting into the recycle and like the give back stuff and like you were doing that whole project for a while?
Yeah. We were just talking about like one of my friends, Steve. He works at Sneaker Box and stuff. Sneaker Box, sneaker store. A while back, we were just talking about like vintage clothes, and I was just like real reluctant, like real just like, man, that ain't cool. Like, people always like people wearing old clothes. Like, I'm not cool with that. Like, I don't even like that. And he kind of broke it down to me in a different way that I understood, and I started doing research, and I started thinking about like clothes waste and stuff like that, and we put a little collection together where we were recycling clothes. Because if you look it up, I don't know off the top, but if you look it up, a lot of clothes goes to waste, and the vintage trend and vintage clothes helps. I mean, it might probably not help a lot, but it's helping something, and we wanted to be a part of that, so that's what we did. That
it was cool. When I first saw you drop that, I was like, man, like because I always see you creating, and then from another creator who understands a parallel of what you're trying to do, or at least compares it to what I'm trying to do, I'm like, man, like at this point, like he is just, you're doing it.
Yeah,
and like
man,
that takes a long fucking time to get to where you're just doing it.
I enjoy what I do, man. I enjoy designing. I enjoy putting ideas together. Like the rush of making something in your brain and seeing it come to life. It's like
it's uncomparable.
It's the best, you know what I'm
uncomparable
saying? It's the best, feeling for me, and that's what I'm chasing. Like I'm not chasing money. I'm not chasing fame. I'm not chasing nothing. I'm chasing that feeling when you get when you created something and it is a real life. Like that's really what I do. Like, and that's why I enjoy doing. Like I said, I'm trying to do what I like to do. And that's it. Like I like to create things and see my vision come to life.
I see also on there where you started getting the opportunity to work with like famous or people with bigger pool, and then I saw you down in New York doing like that travel thing. Like where the hell did that whole thing come from? Because
like I said,
when you did that, I was like, yo, like because I'm in your like. There's so much stuff that you're getting done that I'm like, I also want to travel. Like, because I always talk about like, I'm just going to take the podcast or like to do pop-ups in general. It's not easy to do. So when I saw you guys were like throwing shit in a trailer, I'm like, they are not fucking around.
It's all networking, man. Yeah. It's all networking all over the world. Like we got 100 stores that we in contact that we know. You know what I'm saying? People that we know all over. I could have took that tour longer if I could. You know what I mean? I could have just kept going to different stores and stuff like that, but like,
is that something you wanted to do because you wanted to travel and to see your friends?
Yeah, I would love to travel to all kinds of different stores and do pop-up tours, and that's something that I'm gonna do in the future. But
how'd they set up? Did you do it like where you went there and then they had it like in the evening and they had music and like?
Nah, we came with everything. We came with a trailer full of gear. We had we came a couple homies, pulled up. We set up a pop-up shop. It was summertime. We was doing it outside.
Hell yeah!
Most of the stores and. We came with the DJ. We came with everything, and we set up shop. But we went to the store. We went to All Star Players, the store that I came from. Like not that I came from, but like the store that gave me the love of what I do. You know what I'm saying? And I still do business with them. And that tour was to all the All Star Player stores that I helped create.
What was that like?
It was amazing, man. It was fun. Like it felt like we was on like a real rap tour.
Yeah. Well, it looked like it. I was like, yo, that's gonna be so much fun. Yeah, I mean, there's a hustle and there's stress and there's work.
Yeah. And, it was stressful. It's always everything is stressful, but like
it's life.
Once you realize that what you're doing is you're having fun, once you realize you're doing what you wanted to do, then the stress go away a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Or like you have a moment where I'll be like bitching and complaining, and then I'll be like, dude, you could be standing behind a flat top right now, working 9 hours. Or like,
could always be worse.
When I was at the post office, which was the worst job I've ever had, and I've had some pretty terrible jobs. When I see that post office truck or I see an Amazon truck on a Sunday night at like 8, 9 o'clock, and I've been there.
You're like, that could have been me.
I'm like, I'd still be doing that. Mm-hmm. You'd be in that truck. Because Sundays to me is really the only day I have off. I'll put the silent mode on. I am learning about silent mode. Silent mode is beautiful. But on my Sundays, it's like I want to watch my shows. I want normal Michael. You know, there's a lot where people pull from you.
I'm starting to do that too. Like I was telling you before, I'm trying to do more things like that I really want to do, and that's one thing I'm doing is having a day off. Like I'm closing,
saying no to people.
Yeah, saying no and closing on Sundays. Like that's a big problem I have, saying no to people.
Same. Like, this is the first year I started doing it.
I don't like to say no if somebody's asks me if I can make something. I always want to say yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I'm learning to pick my battles.
Yeah, and like in the beginning. It was this year was the first time I said to say no to somebody, and it was very hard to do. And then when I got to the second or third project, then I just started telling people no, and then I'm like, oh, now like you are actually saying no to shit you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And now you're not doing favors or like, because a lot goes into it where you start like, doing apparel for somebody who only wants a couple items, and I'm like, oh man, like I don't have time to do this, and it's not out of I don't want to do it. My life is now being consumed, and I pushed it to a professional level.
And then what happens is that you end up doing those couple items. You end up doing those couple items that you really didn't want to do, but you didn't want to say no, and you end up doing them, and you're not doing them the way you want to do them, and then you give a person a bad product, and then that affects your business. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or your mood,
or your mood, or anything. Like, just affects what you're doing, because, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like everyone should be doing what they want to do. Like, people shouldn't be complaining about their jobs. People shouldn't be complaining about nothing. If you don't like your job, you should quit. And you should go find a job you like. Or you should go find a business that you think you'll be happy doing. Because at the end of the day, you that's all you got. You got your happiness and you got what makes you happy. You know? After years and years of trying to figure something out, you realize that you didn't care about what you really wanted. You know what I mean?
That's 100% the truth. I've been through, and at a point my friends would make fun of me because, Mike's just going to quit after a month. Mike's just going to quit after a month. He especially because it was the last job I left and it was serious to leave the post office because everybody really was proud that I had like this government job and, what they pitched to the idea of what the post office is. And then when it wasn't, I wasn't mentally sound from that job. All everybody cared about is that I threw away an opportunity that they thought was the best decision for me. Yeah. And then now I look back on every job I had and I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I just kept pushing to be happy because like what you said, you don't know that like when I started doing this 100%, my depression went out the window. And I was like, oh, that's what that was from? I was all fucked up in the head because I was miserable standing and cooking for $9 an hour for somebody else. And anytime I had an idea, everybody told me it was dumb. And then it was just like, well, I know my ideas are right. I want to be challenged by trying to run this. And then when you get across the finish line, which I didn't know is the finish line until you have that moment where I'm like, oh, I'm happy. I'm not miserable on a Monday, and I have my stresses like anyone else, but I'm not waiting to retire. I'm not counting days until I'm not working at a place anymore. I'm not saying, man, I can't wait till summer because I'm not going to have to be at this job. Like, I thoroughly enjoy every day. And a lot of times you don't realize that you don't enjoy life because you're forced to be chained to a job that you think you need. And when you break away from that, that's what the finish line was, and it was a humbling experience to learn that.
People need that, like people need that security of a job, and I understand.
They start identifying.
I understand that, but I feel like you shouldn't be doing a job that you don't want to do. Like, I feel like I've been at that point. I used to work at Home Base with Andy. I used to work there as a salesperson and stuff like that. I worked there for a couple years. And there was a point where I got real down on money. Like, I was just like, damn, like, I need more money. Boom, boom. So I got a second job at UPS. And I worked at Home Base and I worked at UPS. And after a while, I started realizing, like, that's not, I don't want to just work for people. Like, my brand, my brand was still there. I was still working. I was still building my brand, but my brand wasn't being able to be built how it's being built now.
Because you don't realize that you need that time.
It came to a point, I was in UPS one day and I was working across a guy who was doing the same thing I was doing. And he was telling me that he was there for like 30 years.
That shit's crazy.
He told me he told me he'd been there for 30 years and we were doing the same thing. I was there for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I lie to you not. As soon as he told me that, I was like, I'm going to the bathroom, and I never came back. I just left. And I never had a job since.
Yeah.
Because I felt, at that point, I just felt like, I don't just need money. Like, I need to make money how I want to make it.
Yeah.
You know
and it's a weird transition, and everybody always asks how you make that transition. And I always bring it up when I talk to people who are doing what they want to do, because I know that there are listeners who get motivated by these conversations and whatnot. Yeah. But that moment when you don't know, it's not like you're like, I'm quitting tomorrow and on this date I'm going to do it. It emotionally moves you to a point where you're either you have to do it.
You have to do it. Like, you have to make the money.
Yeah.
So.
And my parents, even, I remember I left and I was so fucked up in the head from the post office, and it was like the second time I was like officially mentally unsound, and I needed some time to myself. And I took 2 weeks, and I just kind of like was, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Oh, and then I started working with a friend doing construction. I put a nail through my hand. I'm like, this is not you. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this isn't me, bro. Like, I don't even know how to use your tape measure. Like, I was grateful for the opportunity, but then, I had some real talks with my parents who have watched this from when they told me I was crazy till they supported me, till they were like, they sat me down down and they were like, you have to do this because this is something that you have to learn. Either you can do or you can't do, and you can no longer be putting yourself through this every year. You have to take the step forward. Yeah. And then it was more of like, I knew I was going to have to do it, and then I got a job dishwashing, and, you know, those are also things that I point out to people. I called Tommy at Widows. I said, I need a dishwashing job. I want to work from fucking 9 till 3, and that is it. I do not want to cook. I do not want to do anything else. I just want to dishwash. He's ecstatic because when are you going to get a 38-year-old dishwasher who gives a fuck about, you know, but I've worked in the kitchen, so I don't mind getting in there with these guys and getting in the fucking, you know, whatever.
But and then doing what you want to do, though, it's not different.
When I knew that I needed, because then I started running the business, and then I was like, okay, this is real. We have to pay bills. All right, well, how do we make the rent? All right, well, we need to do this for the rent. And then when I was at Widows and I knew that the time I was spending at Widows, I needed to be spending on Never Again, I shook Tommy's hand and I said, if I need to be back, I will, but I think I'm good, and I haven't worked another job in like 3 years. Yeah. And I've just been like, you just have to do it, because the time you're spending at that other job is the time that's needed for you to make the amount of money that you need to make. And then you start realizing how much time you actually have in a day. Lately, it's been, I don't have enough time, but like, if you sit down, you can figure out how to make the fucking money you made at a fucking 9 to 5 that you don't give a fuck about.
And you have to make it. So it's like, you have no choice. You have to pay rent. Yes. You have to do what you got to do.
Yes.
And you have to make it. So like, I always tell, like, a lot of my friends, like, honestly, I don't tell people to quit their jobs, because it's not just about quitting your job. It's about
like, you fucking told me to quit.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I don't want to get that. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a job, I don't say quit, but a lot of my friends, I tell them, yo, like, I got friends that have side businesses like I do. Like, I have friends with brands and jobs. And sometimes I tell them, like, bro, you can make what you're making at your job triple of your brand. Why are you even working?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, nah, because I need to pay the rent. I need to do this and this and that. I'm like, all right, but you could be making a lot more than what you're making if you weren't tied down to a job.
And the older you get and the longer you run the business, the less.
And it's often necessity. You have to make more. You don't. It's not just like. It's not like. You're gonna stop having responsibilities. You still have to make your responsibilities, but.
It's a different hustle, because now it's up to you.
It's a necessity.
Like when you came down here and I was like telling you where I was at with moving the studio and all that, like the studio move and what I plan on doing with the cafe and all that, that's out of me wanting more money. Yeah. I don't, like, I could stay down here and be completely content. I don't want to. There's no windows. There's definitely some bad parts about being down here. But like, this was my incubator, and now I need to grow again. But now I also know that I can grow, because I grew over the last years. So it's like, now it's like, all right, cool. Like, you know, but I also have all these tool sets. So when I'm telling you, like, yo, I want to do pop-ups and comedy stuff and, like, you know, doing cooking shows, and I can make money here. And I'm going to move everything over to Patreon, and I'll do these fucked up shows and make money off that. Like,
it's proving what you could do. So
yeah.
Why not do it?
Yeah. I mean, and then that's kind of like what I want to circle back to and get to what you're doing now. Like, what kind of moved you to rebrand and kind of like switch your logo? And like, when I saw that, it was so refreshing to see somebody who wasn't afraid to change something that they, you know, that's your baby. Yeah, you know what I mean? So in order to change the logo, it's not easy to do, but, you know, and especially with something that was like such a tight, like, you branded that before, you know, like, and after talking to you now, it makes sense, because of working with North Face and everything. Like, people don't realize, like, if you have a big fucking logo, you ain't embroidering that. Yeah. So like, the shit that you have, you can screen print it, you can embroider it, you can put it on a coffee cup, you can put it on a fucking crock thing. Like, it's locked down. So I mean, for you to adjust that, was it scary, or was it just something that you wanted to kind of wipe the palette off and do something new?
It was scary. It was a little scary, because just like when I told people that I was gonna do a rebrand, it was just like, people don't understand what I meant. You know, I feel like people thought I was just gonna change.
They're like, you're giving up?
Yeah, pretty much. They look at it like that, like you giving up or you changing the brand. And I didn't want to change it. I just wanted to like do something new, because like I told you, we started this 10 years ago. Half of my friends all have kids and have families, and like, we're all grown up. So I really wanted to do more grown up things. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the rebrand is about. It's just about us growing up and new direction of where we going. You know what I mean? But it's the same brand. It's still Abe Empire, still America's biggest empire, still stands for everything that it stands for. But we're taking a new approach and doing things a little bit different, a little bit more grown, a little bit more family oriented, and that's what it is right now. You know what I'm saying? But it's not something different. You know what I mean? We changed the logo. We added some changes, but it's still the same. Like, people still could recognize it. You could recognize the old logo and the new logo together. You know what I'm saying? And that was a big thing for me. I didn't want to straight just wipe out what we were doing. You know what I mean? Of all we did. I wanted to just add to it. Like, Apple changed their logo. Nike changed their logo. Every company changed their logo.
Yeah. I like that, you know, that after hearing that, because like when I started everything, it was like I was heavy into skateboarding. A lot of my friends were into skateboarding. It's like I dabbled here and there, but like, you know, I was more into like the hang and getting into trouble, and I was just never good at it. So like,
same with me. I love skateboarding. I just never been good at.
Love the culture. One of my favorite, that '90s skateboarding culture. You know, Corey was on
videos all day at the shop. I just don't skate. I skate. Like, I can just cruise around. I don't do none of that crazy shit. I'm too big for that.
No, we went out to Woodward, and like I was just happy with I could drop in the one bowl and then just keep going. And I was like, yo, I'm good. I'm good.
See, that's goals right there for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, once I could be able to do that.
Yeah, I could drop. I always did enjoy ramp because my brother had it growing up. So like I could drop in at a young age.
Yeah.
So like then like I could go up, turn around, and it's like I couldn't really do anything other than that. But you also got to put time into it, man. Like it's like golf. You got to do it every fucking day.
I'm gonna conquer that next. I bought a skateboard at 5 and Dime.
Hell yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah, I love the 5 and Dime.
I gotta have them
guys.
back on.
A little piece of history is that my store is the original 5 and Dime.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, I had them on, and I told them like eventually, now that I clipped out a couple of the Easton guys down there, like I'd love to have like all you guys on and just kind of talk about what's going on in Easton and shit.
We go on the other show, the crazy, the
off the rails.
Show.
Yeah, 100%. Well, because now that you came on, I'll bring balloons back on too, and then just like I would love to just talk to people doing clothing and apparel. I get so motivated by it because every time he comes on, I'm like, I could talk to that kid for hours, and then like between seeing what you're doing and what he's doing, I'm like, I get like, fuck yeah, like there are people in the Valley who are pushing and doing a full fucking clothing line.
There's a lot of people in the Valley now. Nowadays, there's a lot of people pushing brands from in all different towns, like all Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton. There's brands opening their own stores. There's a lot of that going on, and I honestly love it. And I'm happy for it, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's everywhere, but I feel like in the Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton area, there's enough brands to make any store good. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of brands and a lot of good product and a lot of people that really love what they're doing.
I always was motivated by other people doing apparel, and like when I would come up in the tattoo conventions and stuff, other people would be like, oh, he's the other t-shirt guy, and then like I'm just bullshitting with these dudes, and we're just like sharing the same, like, oh, that sucks, this sucks. And then it's like, then when you start meeting people at a core, I love that there's different clothing companies and that it is easier for people to get shit done, and like Shopify, you know, I remember spending like 12 fucking grand on my first website, you know. I
did that too.
Oof. You know, and then it's like, now it's like, oh, you can pay $30 a month and you can just send your shit.
You can set it up. I'll set you a Shopify website in 10 minutes right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to move to next, because I don't have time. I don't have time to do the clothing. Those 2 sweatshirts are people that said they were coming by to pick it up. So I'm just like, cool, I'm going to Shopify and then just do, or like Axelrad, you know, they have the ability now where they, you know, if I want to, I can look into them setting up a store, and then it's the DTG printing, all that shit. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things available now that were not available back then. Like the fact that you can print DTG and do one-offs, and like, you know, because I have clients where people will be like, hey, like right now this guy's like, hey, you know, I need these shirts by this time in Miami, and I'm only needing 8, and I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna do DTG. It's gonna be twice the amount of money, but you don't gotta buy 50 t-shirts and be stuck with stuff.
Yep. There's a lot of different ways to do things like that, and it's cool.
Where you I'm gonna just start wrapping up, and this definitely won't be our last podcast. It's been such a pleasure to just talk to somebody about apparel, and I knew this was gonna go this way, but like I've been wanting to like network and get together with you, and we're both extremely busy, but the fact that we had an hour to do this is fucking awesome.
I'm hyped up, man. Appreciate it.
I know I get like everything going. I'm like, I
definitely appreciate you reaching out and having me here, man. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
It's been through the grapevine for over the years, and then to actually see what you've done is a tremendous accomplishment. Where do you see yourself going next with next projects? And I know we talked about, you were talking about other stores or other things. Like where do you see like going into 2023? Like where do you want to be at? Because I know you're the type of person that is not going to stop doing whatever you're doing.
I'm still growing, man. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of things that I love. We're still growing. A lot of new ideas are in motion, new stores, new businesses. We're going in a little bit more on manufacturing and stuff like that. But we're just growing, man, just trying to enjoy the journey. You know what I'm saying? It's not too much about the destination. I feel like at this point there is no destination anymore. We just keep going, you know what I'm saying? And we're enjoying what we're doing. Like I said, I love what I do. And I hope that I can continue to do it in a bigger scale as the years come by, man. But right now, I'm grateful to God that I'm able to do what I'm doing.
It's been a pleasure interviewing you. Even the last thing you said about like just doing it. There's no real destination, and when you get to a point of running something and you have that freedom. A lot of worries go away. Like even with money and shit with me anymore, it's like I do what I do, and I don't. Right now, it's like a struggle for me to want more because I don't need more because I'm just so humbled with where I'm at. But I know, I'm like, I want real things.
Yeah,
but
we want more. You're always gonna want more. That's just the way life is set up. We're never gonna have enough to get everything we want.
But it's like to be at a place where I know that I'm not going to stop working and building this because, like, I remember one of my friends pulled me aside and they were just casually talking and they go, "Well, like you're never going to stop doing this," and I'm like, "Oh." Like, it was the first time where, like, I stepped back and then I was like, oh, like, I don't look at it from the other perspective where my friends are like, I want some of your energy. Like, you're never going to stop doing it. So when you have that perspective of, like, well, I'm not ever going to get off this hamster wheel, so I know that this is going to get bigger. And if I had no money, now I have some money. Now I'm going to have more money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be...
It's going to keep going and keep building. Like.
And then when that stress is gone, then that's when it's just kind of like what I said, where it's like everything goes black and I'm just painting in my head. Even, like, designing the new studio, like... This was a fucking blast to do this down here, but now that I'm gonna have twice the space, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have a kitchen, and I'm like, I have so much artwork in trunks, like I was like, and then like to be able to like offer a better looking show to the listeners, but then to be able to offer, like, because I want to do 3 studios. So like if I have a studio where like we can just kick back, smoke, hang out and drink and like either watch a movie or just fucking sit around and talk, but it's a lounge and it's not this, I'm like, oh, well, we'll go over here and do that show. And then I'm like, the gates are open, but now the fucking flood's coming and I'm like, dude, this is going to be fucking, you start getting amped up. But I mean, when you were telling me what you're doing with like the stores and all that, I'm like, ugh, like sometimes people don't get like that's what it's all about.
It's hype, not, man. It's hype. It's hype to be able to do something new. Like I'm excited for the next project, just because it's something new to be doing. It's new, you know what I'm saying?
You're chasing like, it's almost like you knock the dust off and you're like, nah, it's still there.
Yeah, nah, it's still there. And we're doing what we enjoy doing. We're not just doing it for money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing it because I love this shit. And
when people ask me,
always do it.
And when people ask about the money thing, sometimes I'm like, I look at it and I'm less like, well, this is working because it's not about money, and this is working because it's not about me. Yeah. And then sometimes it's just like I work so unselfishly on this where like I think if I was like making it about me and making it about money, I'd either be in debt to other people for money or I'd be fucking not doing this anymore because it would just been a hole in a ship sinking. And I've watched people do that and I don't get involved with it, but it's like, it's like sometimes it's like, well, I'm very grateful that I'm addicted to fucking art and I'm addicted to creating and I'm addicted to wanting to make more apparel, and like I'm not addicted to shit that would have just made me not a person and would have just made me want money.
Yeah.
I don't know. You get humbled.
Man.
You get humbled when you build
humbled,
shit.
Man. You get humbled, especially when you eat shit too. You know what I'm saying? You get humbled. Like, it ain't all about money. Like, all I was doing is chasing money. Like, you talk to yourself and you realize that it's more than that. You know what I'm saying? It's more to it. It's more about being happy, enjoying the journey.
It's crazy how much it changes you, because now it's like people are like, oh, the new studio. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yo, that's so cool. Like, what are you hoping for? And I'm like, a washer and a dryer. A dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like, just stupid shit that you take for granted. And then when you live in your work and it's just like, I don't got time to do shit anymore. I am making more time where like I get up in the morning and I go hiking and I do have my moments where I get my day. But there's months. But it's so hard to keep it. I'm like, you are not working Mondays. Guess what I did Monday? Worked all day. Like, and then it's just like, oh, I'm just going to get into emails. And it's like, but then it's like.
I say that too. Like I told you, I'm trying to be closed on Sundays.
Yep.
There's a couple Sundays I was open just because I don't want to be home or.
Yeah, sometimes you need to get, but like that's the other thing is this space is created to make me happy. So like if I'm in a funk or there's something that's bothering me, I come over here. And when I realized that this lane was built for like mental health, this lane was built for happiness, this lane was built for like me to keep my shit together, like it made it very easy to choose this lane. And then like when like my friends, I had a very close friend of mine die, and like I was like, well, you have every excuse to throw your entire life away and start being a drunk. You have every excuse to just throw it all away. You have every excuse to do that. Or you can pay attention to what the fuck's going on. Because it was like the studio wasn't finished. We didn't even have paint on the walls. We were halfway through it. It happened. And I remember standing over there behind that couch and I was just like, all right, you got to finish the studio. And then I had a close friend of mine who also had lost somebody in life. And the two of us, she's an interior designer. The two of us did all of this. And in that time, that's when I was like, all right, the walls need to be blue because I want to feel like I can breathe and I need it wide open like the ocean. And then like, we closed the rooms off with the orange, but that popped with the blue. And then like all these paintings, they're all stories from when I was at a tattoo shop. I mean, I used to have apparel over there, but we're like taking it down. But like, you almost built this safe spot where like when shit sucks, and I'm sure it's the same with you, we're like, fuck it, I'm going to the store.
Yeah. No, that's
put music on. I'll just make a hat.
It's definitely my cave. Like I love the store, man.
People don't get that.
I really
that's
love
priceless.
I'm happy to be there. Every day I open it. Every night when I close, take a picture.
Yeah.
I just love it. Yo.
Yeah.
I love the store, and I'm very proud and happy to be there. And every time I feel down, or every time I feel like I'm not doing the right thing, I remind myself that I'm in my dream store.
Yeah, man. It's a dope story. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you're very busy. I'm definitely going to start popping in every time I'm in Easton now. Now that we've gotten past this, which I've been wanting to do for a while, this was important to me.
Me too, man. I really appreciate being here. Like I said,
thank you, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I'm going to give you a second to tell everybody where the store is, what's the online, how everybody can see you, to what to follow. Everything you do is like the social media is worth following. The store is definitely worth going and checking out. Where can we see anything that you're doing?
Main thing is my store is called Made in Easton. It's downtown Easton. The address 15 South 2nd Street. You can come check me out there. Our website is madeineaston.com, and all of our brands are all available there. I got a lot of Instagrams. I got Made in Easton's one Instagram. Made by Nano is my personal Instagram. Abe Empire, Currency Cartel, Hood Vision. It's a lot of brands, but like the main ones that you want to follow is Made by Nano, and you want to go check out Made in Easton, man. The store is the hub for all my brands and brands in the area. So you could come down and check it out, and you could get familiar with a lot of things that are going on. Get familiar with everything I'm doing. I also do freelance design. I do manufacturing, mostly embroidery. But my inbox is open if anybody ever wants to talk or needs advice or anything like that. My inbox is always open, and you could just contact us. Thank you, man.
It's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Go check out everything he's doing. It's worth following. The accounts, the apparel, especially if you're into fashion. If you're new into getting into anything and you want to watch somebody create something brick by brick after he's come this far, that is your guy to follow. If you are a first-time listener, first-time watcher, it's everythingneveragainstudio.com. That has our YouTube. I'm building the YouTube up. I want to get my subscribers up so I can monetize and I can start that hustle. So if you want to do me a favor, subscribe to the YouTube. If you want to do anything else, neveragainstudio.com is where we have the apparel. I have the Instagram. All social media accounts are connected to that one. So thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate you making time out during the week, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Anytime,
we'll do this
bro.
again. I'll talk to Balloons, and we'll turn something around fast, and we can just hang out and relax and fucking drink. And,
hell yeah.
Not less interviewee and just more just talk fashion and shit.
Yeah, I'm down, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
I believe it.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.